Hello, my name is Carl Surrey and this is a video tutorial for the Facebook group called Fans of Serif Software, and this will be the Beginner's Guide Part 13. In this guide I want to look at 3 tools, all of them found over here on the same menu on the left hand side of the Tools toolbar, and they are the Blemish Remover, Scratch Remover and Patch Tool. Now these are really, in my opinion, sort of variations of the Clone tool, which I looked at in Beginner's Guide Part 12. Now before I go on to look at these tools, I just want to quickly just go back to the Clone tool to go over something I missed mentioning. So if I just select the Clone tool, what I forgot to mention was you can use the Clone tool obviously to clone out a mistake or a bad area, like I did in the tutorial, which I removed this blue spot on the wall. But you can also clone in objects. Now when you're cloning out, I did it on about 50%. If you want to clone something in, I have the opacity up to 100%. So for example, this light up here, let me just raise the brush size slightly. If I press Alt key and then click, it will now clone that light, and I can put in another light there, for example. So when I zoom out, that walkway now has 2 lights. So you can alter an image by removing objects or copying and adding them. So like if you had a photograph of a flock of birds or a bed of flowers, for example, but it has gaps in your flower beds or in the flock of birds, you could use the clone tool to clone in extra flowers or birds, as long as you don't repeat too much. It won't be as too noticeable that you've added something extra. So that's the one thing that I forgot to add. So I'll undo that. So it's gone back to just the one light bulb, and we will move on to the reason for this tutorial, which are these 3 tools. So I will click on the Blemish Remover tool first. Now I've set this up in a way that I have 3 versions of the same picture, and I'm going to use each tool individually to try and remove the same objects from the picture, so you can see how good or how bad each one copes with the same problems. So when I did the clone tool tutorial, I removed this blue mark on this post here. I took out a seagull that was flying up in the air up here, and a stain, not a stain, there's mark down here on the pathway. I think I will also remove this black dot up here, which I didn't do in the clone tutorial. So I will move into the blue stain first of all. Now if I hold the cursor over that, down the bottom it says click over blemish, then drag to a replacement area, then release. Now in my experience, I don't necessarily have to drag anywhere. If I click over the area I want to remove, click once, and then the program selects an area where it thinks is the best colour match for that sample. But I don't want a colour match, I want an area that is going to alter it. And see, sometimes it picks a colour from a long way away, and it does get a bit confusing. I mean, quite where that one's going. For some because it's the blue, the nearest colour matching pixels from that blue is that blue up there. Like I said, you can drag this down so it doesn't see, it's a very random way of removing this particular type of problem, and it doesn't make a very good job of it. This is why you would probably best using a clone tool for removing such a big area. Now, if I tried the bird over here, it is much more successful because the colours, the pixels within that area match that area there, so it pretty much has taken away the small few amount of pixels that bird took up. So this tool is probably best used on small areas, because I think what this tool is mainly used for is like for portraits. So like if you want to remove a spot or a pimple or some small blemish on a person's face, you click on the area, and obviously the skin tones are pretty much the same sort of pixel colours, even for a blemish. So if I click on that one there, it has picked a colour from that area down the bottom, but it has sort of removed that area. So I try and click on it again, undo that last one because it ruined that bit there. But if I zoom out, that black dot is less noticeable. So I zoom into this mark on the pavement here. Now this is, see, it's trying to pick a similar colour, which is not what I'm after. What I really want is a colour like that. So it's probably best to just do this gradually rather than try and do the whole bit in one hit. So you slowly remove the whole colour to get something nearer to what you want, to hide that white mark on the floor there. This is where the clone tool would have been a much better tool for that particular problem, and really for most of these problems it would have been better to have used the clone tool. Like I said, I think the blemish tool is better used on portraits and other images like that. So that is the blemish tool. So I will now move to the next picture. Lower that down again, and I will go to the scratch remover. In the scratch remover it says Alt click to define a pickup point, then paint your chosen location. So again, we will start by zooming in to this blue area. So I'll click, press the Alt key and click, and then as you can see it is copied those pixels from the area I've chosen, and then if I just click an area up here, what it has done is moved that to there, which is not what I want. What I want is to click this area and move it to here. But again, I mean, although you've only got the brush size. You don't seem to have any control over opacity. So it's a case of keep clicking to slowly, and it is very slowly, remove or change these areas. It's more like smudging than like cloning. The cloning tool is it's almost a definite 100% sort of moving the pixels from one area to another, whereas all this seems to want to do is sort of smudge out that blue. So it looks more like a smear now. If I try the bird, press the Alt key for somewhere near it and then go over it. See, again, a smaller object is better handled with the scratch remover. But again, these subjects that I'm trying to pick here are not really scratches, so it's hardly surprising that it's not coping very well. So I Alt click that and move that there. See, smaller items it handles much better rather than a big problem. Probably the nearest thing to a scratch on this image might be this black line along the bottom here. So if I press down the Alt key and then didn't work, and then just drag along, as you can see, you've got a sort of repeat pattern of that dot there and that dot there, but you can easily hide that repeat pattern a bit. And the same goes for this bit up here. I press the Alt key and click, you can sort of hide that area as well. So as you can see, these two tools work very similar and the same sort of principle as the clone tool, but are probably best suited for smaller problems and leave the bigger problems, and probably 90% of all other problems, to the clone tool. Right, let's go on to the last version of this image and we'll look at the patch tool. Now it says here at the bottom, lasso an area, then drag it to a replacement area, then release. Now this gives you the cursor that looks like the lasso tool that you get with the freehand selection, and that's basically what that is. So you click and draw around your problem area, you will have the marching ants, and then you get the move tool cursor and you just move this up to a different area, and then when you release, it will slowly replace the pixels. So as you can see, a bit like the other tools, it does have a problem with this big blue smudge. If I press Ctrl and D to get rid of the marching ants, but if I go over the bird area and then move that again, see that it has no problems with the smaller areas. If I come down, draw around this white line here, move it around and pick different areas, you can, that's probably the nearest one. I press Ctrl and D to get rid of the marching ants, and as I zoom out, I mean that big blue stain on the wall is not totally gone, but it has made it less obvious. Again, if I do this click and draw around that area. So I have just about got rid of the black dot on the wall there. So all these three tools, the where is it? I've lost it. Blemish Remover, Scratch Remover and Patch tool are sort of like the clone tool and are probably okay for their certain types of problems, but I think the clone tool is better for nearly all your problems in this sort of area. But hopefully that will give you some guide as to which tool to use for certain problems. I hope that's been of some help. Thank you and goodbye.